welcome to our first Swarm Salon on portfolio reviews. If you like it, we might do it more in the future. So, how do we start today? We will start with defining what a portfolio is for each of us. So, at Swarm, we're all designers. Rafa here is an associate designer. He just graduated college. Pat here has been us for like 2.5 years, and I've been a designer for for a while. So, um, all right. So Rafa, Pat, and myself, what is a portfolio for you? Let's start with Rafa.
Okay, so Alexis is right. Like among Alexis, Pat, and I'm the youngest, the most junior. I'm the MACNE. And I recently graduated. So, for me, a portfolio is a way for me to be myself, to be creative, and to show like what I can do as a designer. It's a way for me to showcase my specialization. So it's a collection of works really, and to show like the services that I can offer. So to sum that up, like for me, a portfolio is this digital artifact that you have. It's your key to win the hearts of like your potential clients if you're a freelancer, or your hiring managers like Alexis here if you're looking for to land a full-time job.
Wow, the key to win the hearts of your future employers. Okay, so Pat, how about you? You're a mid-level designer. You've been designing for a while as well. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I usually treat my portfolio as a highlight reel of my best work, and in some ways, I treat it as an extension of who I am as a designer. So my role. So I think portfolios should be able to demonstrate what you can do best. It should be able to show your top skills, your craft, your work experience, any social proof, and of course, not to miss your personality. So basically, everything that you have to offer. And I'm speaking as someone who usually publishes my portfolio with the intention of getting hired. So it's actually what I was submitted to Swarm when I was applying, or at least when you asked for it, Alexis. But
And
sometimes,
we reviewed it. Yeah.
yes, indeed.
Okay.
But yeah, sometimes I do like just posting my portfolio or my work to showcase who I am as a designer.
Yeah. So who are you as a designer?
That's very existential. Let's not go there.
Okay. All right. We won't go there. So how about myself? So I have been in design for a while, like 7 to 8 years professionally. And what a portfolio really is to me is just an artifact that I use to evaluate whether a person is good or not. That's it. So I'm a hiring manager and the founder of a startup. So what's the job to be done for like a portfolio, right? So to me, I just need to see it and decide whether it's a yes or a no. Yes, if it's a yes, if it's good enough, the person's good enough, the work's good enough, then they will proceed to the next step, which is an interview or a culture interview, or we might dive deeper into one of the case studies, those kinds of things. And for me as a founder, I also work on growth, content, those kinds of things, marketing. So sometimes I look at people's portfolios and I need to decide, okay, is this person interesting enough for me to approach and, like interview them on our podcast or something like that, those kinds of things. So that's how I use a portfolio. So, okay, now that we've defined what a portfolio is, let's discuss a little bit about what makes a portfolio effective. And then right after that, we'll review our own portfolios and judge one another. And then we'll take a look at the audience portfolios. All right. So, what makes a portfolio effective for you, Rafa?
Mm, for me, a portfolio is effective. Like I'll be echoing on what Pat said a while ago. It doesn't only show your work, but it also shows your personality as a person, as a designer. So you can show your personality in various ways, actually, like through the text, through the microcopy that is written in the website, through the photos you curate for the projects that you have, and also for the animations and the interactions that you set in those portfolios that you have online. So that's one. Another way for you to make an effective portfolio is to just to stop hiding your work and show your work upfront. Just as Alexis said a while ago, you said, I just need to see it as a hiring managers. And like trying to go into the minds of like hiring managers, most probably they will have tons of portfolios coming in, and maybe with just the hero page, like process of elimination, even without scrolling yet, you could tell, oh, which ones do I want to push through, or like which ones will I eliminate in that hero page. So you have to captivate immediately. So even more in this era where attention is starting to become scarce, a scarce resource as time goes on. The landing page should be able to captivate, not just introduce yourself, your role, but I guess one tip for me is like show your work up front and be proud of it. Then other than that, there should be clarity on the service. Like, what do you do? What's your role? So those are a couple of things that for me I think makes a portfolio effective.
Okay, cool. So you have one chance to leave a lasting impression, I guess. And you need to make use of the attention once they go in. Pat, how about you?
I guess the number one thing for me when it comes to portfolios is that it has to be created with intentionality. So earlier I said that when I published my portfolio, which was like years before, I created it for the intention of getting hired. So with that I learned, of course, showing your body of work is important. But if you're posting your portfolio in the sake of getting hired, it's important to also have signals of availability in your portfolio. So basically, you have to make it clear to the hiring manager or to whoever you're sending the portfolio to that you're open for work and are actively looking for it. Same also if you're looking to get work from a freelance client or a fractional opportunity. So that's number one. And then I guess number two is it should also showcase your skill and craft. So visual design and photos of your work is very important. It should also demonstrate how you are able to work through or solve problems. So this is where case studies come in. So whether you're like a designer or a dev, case studies are a great way to show others your process, how you think, how you're able to process complex problems and turn them into solutions. So yes, and then lastly, it should be updated also, which is something that an advice I should follow as well. But make it a habit to update your portfolio, so you can clearly demonstrate your growth as a designer, dev, etc.
All right. So for me, what makes a portfolio effective is all of the things that you've already said, Pat and Rafa. So I won't repeat them. But I want to stress on the signal of availability. So sometimes pe- people like your work and who you are as a designer, but they just don't know that you're available. And this is something that's been prevalent in the industry. So one way to solve it is just say it out loud in social media that hey, this is my work, I'm available. People need triggers to know that you're available, and just saying it uh, along with your marketing asset, which is the portfolio, is very powerful. So, with that being said, let's start reviewing portfolios, and let's start with ourselves, just so it's fair. Okay, I'll share my screen, and let's start with Rafa. So Pat and I are gonna review Rafa's work, and then he can defend himself afterwards. Okay, so Yes. This is like we're just gonna go with like a healthy feedback here. Okay, so Pat, what do you think?
Alright, so first impression, I like how the brick section is like the whole bulk of the, or basically it's a big portion of the site. That gives me the impression he's really looking to showcase that. And also visually, I do like all of the cover photos. I can see that he intentionally designed thumbnails for each project. So it's not just like a screen on a mock-up for most of the work that he's done.
Okay. For me, I like the titles, I guess, and then it's very visual. You started with the work right away, right? You have a fixed sidebar here. You have some main calls to action, just to message you or down your resume, and I think I can just kind of make a decision here whether you're good or not. And honestly, for an associate level designer, like this is very good. And then it looks like you link off to like a Medium article. Honestly, for things like this, I'm just gonna scroll. I'm not gonna read everything, but because you captivated us with like nice visuals, I'm kind of interested like a bit. But I remember when I was evaluating your portfolio that I did I did read them. But I think just as a disclaimer, not all hiring managers have time, and it looks like your case study is so long. um, so you have some information architecture here. You're working on a marketplace. The branding's pretty good, I think, and it's pretty creative. Like you have some other projects here too. But an issue I found is I was trying to click this and nothing's happening.
I see.
Yeah. Yes. You see. How about you, Pat? Do you have other feedback for Rafa?
Um, hold on, can you scroll?
There's some brain dumps over here. Keeping your mental design game strong. What's
Mm,
that?
yeah, so I'm assuming those are like blogs or articles that Rafa wrote.
Yeah, like I think you wrote this when you were already a part of the team as
Actually,
an
yeah,
intern. Yeah.
still
So
an intern.
this
But yeah, Pat was right a while ago that I focused on work because when I created this portfolio 2 years ago, like I remember it was just one short weekend where I started drafting on Figma and then transferring designs to Webflow just because I needed a portfolio that I can give to hiring managers because it was a
Rafa,
requirement.
I think your audio's a bit weird. I'm not sure, but
How about now?
okay.
Is it better?
Well, I don't know. Pat, do you think it's better?
Yeah, it's a bit robotic for me, Rafa.
Okay, let's
Maybe
check your
your
audio
wiring.
input. While you fix that, Pat can give her other comments.
Yeah, honestly, it's great. I think the only thing I would, uh, or the only consideration I have is the two column layout. Since for me, having content on like a two column layout makes it look busier, especially since you have quite some paragraphs over at the left sidebar. So I would prefer to focus on either your work or your about or your bio.
Wow. Okay. All right. Let's move on. So let's judge Pat now. Rafa, it's your turn. Okay. So first impressions. Pat is a product designer based in Manila. Very minimalist. She's currently making designs pop at Swarm, amongst other cool stuff. So I am interested what the other cool stuff is. So there's some animation going there. You did this like 3 years ago, so you haven't updated it. Okay. It's
Yeah,
not
the
working. That's a
domain,
big
my domain
issue.
expired.
Okay, your domain expired. How about this one? So you just link directly to the work. Um, all right. So you probably coded this and designed it, right? But I was interested in this one because it looks like it's a product. This
Ah,
one's a
yeah. I think
marketing
you can
site.
change the dot design to dot webflow.io.
This
It's a
one.
slug. Yeah. Should link out.
Okay, that's a big issue. Fix your
Yeah,
links.
that is my bad. Don't
Okay.
do what I
That's
did.
also Rafa's issue. So like
Yep.
don't follow that. Okay. Do you have a case study? The typical template one. Context. So it's a COVID project. Okay, this is good on my end. Like you're because this is a product design portfolio and listing down assumptions is a plus for me. Um, because you can't just randomly, you know, design things without intention, and then you validated it. Okay. Um, what do you think, Rafa? What do you think so far?
Like I remember going through Pat's portfolio um like couple years back, and I had fun going through it. Like it was an experience on its own because of the animations. And like 2 to 3 years ago, having specific interactions like hover interactions and animations on a website, that was already a plus, since the website is not stale, basic. And that already tells me something about Pat, that that is something that she can do when she's working on projects for web, because she was able to create her own website that way. So other than the works, how the website is built is already a plus for me. And I love like
Okay,
the creativity as well.
but there are broken links everywhere.
That is
So,
a different issue.
well, I think so. Let's decide on this because Pat already got her job, so she accomplished her goal. So like she doesn't really need a portfolio right now, right? Um, but yeah, I agree with everything you said, Rafa. The only thing I would change based on, um, this one that we checked that just now, .webflow.io, is it's too long. um, and for stuff like this, look at this context. I would use the headline with the actual answer. Like I would put the context here. So like it's COVID-19. What do you do? Like that would be my title, right? Because like this seems like it's so linear and very cookie cutter. But at that time, I mean, it's good enough, to land your job. But just to improve it even more, right? Um, but this is just too long, you know. That's going to be an issue with someone who is a hiring manager, even a founder, right? Like they don't have time to read all of this. But I think you were able to accomplish your goal either way. Um, reflections, that's good. And some gratitude. That's the first time I've seen that section on a portfolio. Yeah, I think that's great. So these kinds of things you can find it online. Honestly, um, I guess it's my turn to show my portfolio, and it's not really a portfolio, but okay. Rafa and Pat, feel free to just say whatever you want. Go ahead. What are your first impressions?
This guy has a lot of experience. This guy is busy.
Say more. Like you can feel free to evaluate whatever my
I'm
website
going through
lists.
it. So there's a
Yeah,
headline
I'm
on the left
going through it
sidebar.
as well. Yeah, I like how for each item in your experience you can think it out. Um, assuming all of the the links work. So basically, it's like you're showcasing all of your interests as well. So I like that. Tells me a bit more about your personality, more than your actual experiences, of course, which is granted a lot. So first impression also, like this guy has been everywhere or has been doing like everything from content creation, producing content, organizing events. He's a
Okay, like
founder.
how about like uh other thoughts? Like, are you surprised that I don't have work on here?
At first, yeah, I was surprised but that gave me an impression that maybe this is a senior level designer's portfolio, because you're showing experiences more than the works because you are already known to be someone of high caliber, probably. Um, yeah. How about you, Pat?
Yeah, I guess my first impression that this would be like a portfolio for someone who's a design manager already. Since there's not a lot of actual design, visual design, product design work. So,
All right. I guess I'll defend myself. Honestly, I had a portfolio before when I was in Pat and Rafa stage, and it just listed down my capstone project for school, some freelance projects. Um, because and then I have found a job. Like someone invited me to apply, and then I never applied for a job again. Typically, like people invite me just to work for them. So like I never really had a reason to update my portfolio. But if you were gonna ask me if when I would do that, probably if I somehow Swarm fails and I decide to work abroad and like someone needs to see actual stuff. But then I the way I think about it is that okay, I list down actual stuff here and they can click on it. And this is Spectre, like my coaching practice business, however you want to call it. Um, and the way I'm thinking about it is if people can just see the stuff I do already, like my side projects, and like, hey, I've interviewed like 95 designers. I know what a designer is. And the most visually prominent thing here is my newsletter, which I don't write on so frequently anymore. But my goal is to just get leads, basically, for my coaching practice. Uh, I'm taking a look at some of the comments. Brandon says he likes the case study. Yeah, I agree with everything you've said. Maddie, yes, can be counterintuitive. Dexter has a question. So Dexter's our CEO. What tips would you give to a non-design hiring manager to decide if a designer should be interviewed, say for UX or for UI? We'll go through that later when we review a lot of the audience's portfolios. Okay, Himanshu, does including case studies of live websites in a portfolio make a difference? Yes. Uh, so we reviewed some of your portfolios beforehand. Um, Sometimes just linking to a site that's been built, it can be good or bad. It can be good because it's like a just being confident, that hey, I built all of this. Like for example, I pressed this swarm.work site, and everything here is like I had a hand in designing it, or whatever, right? And everything on our alpha platform, those kinds of things. But then if you're not a direct creator of that thing, the question is, what's your role in making that? Um, yeah. So the panel, how do you know when an early designer could transition to a business card portfolio? Okay, let's answer all of those things later on because we have an open dialogue later. So that we can just review all of the portfolios now. Does that sound good, Rafa? Pat?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Okay. All right. Drum roll. The first victim is John. How are we gonna do this? So the way we're gonna do it is we're just gonna share our honest to goodness first impressions. So like take it away, guys. What do you think?
Okay, scroll down. For all first impressions, I wish the work section at the top were bigger. So I can see that he kind of had his work previews in a grid format. But I don't know if it's your screen,
It's
Alexis.
like
But
one
yeah.
whole. This is one whole. I think it's an image. I'm not
Okay.
sure.
So
Let's
what
inspect.
happens when you click on it?
Uh, okay, sorry. Let's click on it.
Yeah.
Okay, it, this could have been on the homepage.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's try. Let's click on one. Upskill hub. So this is like the confidence play, right? Like just this is what we were talking about earlier, right? Like it just leads to the thing. And if I look at the URL, it's a Versal app, so he made everything, right? So he has a personal copy of the thing. CAD design agency. Okay. So have your thoughts evolved from just seeing the initial like portfolio page? Rafa, Pat, what do you think?
Yep. For me, it has evolved because now I see the work, and even though like it actually links out to like the website of the actual work, me knowing that this is John's personal site, since the slug says so, it means that he made this all, and that's great. But I really wished if like when I go to his portfolio, the works are shown or like prioritized, because like visual hierarchy is important, and like what retains in my head right now is John's name, and after a while
Okay.
I might
Like
like I
hello
might
John.
yeah, hi, I'm John. Like that's the thing that I remember. So I might not be able to remember his role or like his works because it's deprioritized in this single frame that I see right
Hmm.
now.
So I think for people here, this section, the H1 tag, see, maybe in HTML, that's super important. Uh, put your value proposition here. Maybe this could be smaller, the hi, I'm John thing. And honestly, he's a developer and he's not really like, it looks like he's not a designer. He's an architecture designer. I don't know what that is. Um, so there are a lot of glaring design issues here, honestly. So like the typefaces are mixed up. The color, there's some gray here, but this is black. There's some very strong drop shadows. And I was this is kind of weird. This one, this slider, and then you do a left align, then a right align. That's like on our design Bible. Never do that.
No, no. Yeah, like it
Never
can
do that.
be
Never do that.
it can be his creative shot, but like
Yeah.
sometimes, or not sometimes, most of the times when you do left align, right align, left align, like it disrupts the reading pattern. So it makes it
Yes.
hard for hiring managers to scan through your website.
But then I mean, he tried. He has icons here. But look at this one. For details like this, if he was applying as a product designer, I would absolutely not
But
hire
yeah,
him. Yeah,
he's
like
primarily a developer, right? More than
Yeah.
a
okay,
designer. So
but
this
that
is a big
disqualifies
plus.
him for our talk because it's about product designers, right? So let's move on. But thank you, John, for submitting. I think the sites that you've created, they're very well made. If I am a developer and you're in need of help designing your site, you can commission a designer you know to design it for you so that you have better first impressions, right? Because like I think your development work is still, superb. Okay, so let's go with Brian. He sent a Behance link. So what are your thoughts? First impressions?
First
Rafa, Pat?
impressions, I like the thumbnails, specifically the ones for the first three. Um, Gives me the impression that he's like more of a visual designer.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Seems like he can do some brand work as well.
This is an example of someone who's really good at visual design. But that doesn't necessarily mean they're good product designers, I would say. So what I would do as a hiring manager is, okay, are there any like product design case studies here? So like I don't think so. But I could probably hire Brian as like a graphic designer for growth team, right?
That's true.
Um
Mm.
okay, let's take a look at this logos
Like
then.
if
So
your
it's a branding
portfolio,
portfolio.
yeah, like if your portfolio is also on Behance, like you don't have um like so much freedom when it comes to like designing the site, how it looks, because like you're bounded by the rules of Behance. But like your main goal here is to captivate your audience through good visuals, through your thumbnails, and as a graphic designer, you can absolutely nail that. And since you're on Behance as well, and there are a lot of graphic designers here, you should be very, very good because like the market is saturated here.
Yeah, so I think Brian, you're a very well talented brand designer, visual designer. Um, but you're saying that you're a UI designer here and like a UI UX designer, but I don't see evidence of that. So I think
Uh,
you have to like add some case studies and more UX related work. And if you're a visual designer, maybe some UI work is good enough, honestly, as a start. So let's move on to Kingsley. Okay, so Rafa and Pat, what do you think?
This is a Figma prototype, right?
Yes, it's a Figma prototype.
I see.
Okay, we can click on stuff. So leads to another Figma prototype. Okay, it opened my Figma app open here instead. Okay, that's like a UX issue. Uh okay. So it's an actual Figma file, which I'm quite confused why that is. And like you're showing your actual workflow, how you think here on the layers panel. So like, okay, is he naming the pages? Yes. Okay, but what really matters is the work, right? So I'm gonna press command dot. Um, this line height could be better. Um, the alignments may kind of all over the place, but on first impression, like looks kind of good, right? But for someone like me, I'm obsessed with details. How about you, Rafa? Pat, what do you think?
For me, starting with the portfolio, the
This
link
one.
earlier, there's a lot of things going on right now. And I think one improvement that can be done is visual consistency. I say this like with when it comes to like the spacing used, like the paddings of the element, the margins, like relative to the space. And like if you're a UI designer, UI UX, whatever you call that, these things, these principles, these practices, you have to nail those and let the website or let your portfolio show that you can actually do the things that you need to do once you're hired for a project. One point as well is like color theories, because like there's a lot of colors going on here. And like when you say UX writing, you should
What
not
is UX writing?
like you
Okay.
should not tell your craft, but you should show it. So since you said UX writing, show us some micro copy, like how do you play with words in your on your portfolio, so that
Okay.
we know
So
like
he did a UX writing challenge. Okay. For 6 days
I see. That could have been the heading of the text in
of
his
this one,
website.
right?
Yeah. So I do
Okay.
agree with Rafa. I think definitely visual design overall can be improved. The usage of colors also, since it seems like he used kind of light pastels at the top and then very high contrast
Muted light.
colors
Mm.
for
Yeah.
yung
So
case studies niya.
there's not a lot of like harmony, I guess, and
Right.
that's going to be an issue. That's a big issue, honestly. And for someone like Kingsley, what I recommend is like he's an example of someone I would take up as an apprentice, um, or like I would mentor him honestly. And the next steps would be to find someone who's good at visual design, to just continue critiquing his work and improving over time. But this doesn't qualify as a product design portfolio, honestly. So let's head on to Anas. Okay, first impressions, Rafa, Pat, let's go.
I saw a while ago when you. Oh yeah, okay. So I like the fact that what's his name? Anas.
Anas, Anas.
Anas here like maximized interactions where he can. So even though at first glance it doesn't show any pictures on like the projects that he has like he actually used the hover interaction to show like a preview of what they look like. So I guess
Okay, so I'll click on one, right? G-Shock,
okay.
because we like watches. So
Mhm.
it links to a Behance. What do you think about that?
I
And
mean,
there's a link to a high fidelity prototype
for me,
here.
it's fine with me. Depends on like what stage did he create the portfolio. Because even with my portfolio, like I wasn't able to create like sub pages on that website because I was in a hurry. I was in a rush. I just linked out Figma prototypes to Medium articles. So I guess um, I can't really judge without knowing like a Nas
Okay,
situation here.
I
But
don't know how to use this honestly. Like Anas, it looks like it's just a mock-up. There's no flows. I The initial page looks great, honestly, and nice micro interactions. But then you say it's interaction design, but in my mind, interaction design is all about not it's not about micro interactions. It's about what's the interaction model, what are the problems being solved, how did you solve them, why is this the UI solution that you presented, right? I mean, you've kind of proven, I guess, here that you're a good visual designer, but that's it. I don't know if I can hire you as a product designer. But stay with me. It looks like that's the second case study, the G-Shock one. Let's look at Anime Joy. So it looks like Anaz has those things. So market research, there are claims, problems. This is great. Uh, KGAR 9.7%. It's like, okay, they're operating in a market that's viable for the startup, I guess. Uh, yeah, some user research, testimonials, sorry, like research callouts. He did competitive analysis. So, what are your thoughts, Pat?
Yeah, I think for the website, definitely the headings and maybe content could be more contextual because right off the bat, I don't really know what anime joy is, right? Or green leopards. And it shouldn't take for me to click on it to understand more about what you've been working on or what the output is. But I do really like how overall the website's very clean, very minimalistic. I guess I'd be interested to know about you as a person. So knowing more about your personality. My gripe with like very minimal, very clean looking websites. They kind of look a lot like other designers' websites. So I think it pays to find a way to make your portfolio stand out a bit more by adding your own personality on it
Yeah,
as well.
Honestly, for me, like as someone who's seen countless portfolios, it your homepage looks like it's a templated like site. I don't know if you built this yourself. That's not bad, but if you're going to go with a template strategy, I would have translated these things to the template like pages, CMS, those kinds of things. Because it's just really bad user experience to like have to go through the end or like just go through the Behance. But I can understand why you would do this. Um, Final thoughts, Rafa.
I think all has been said.
Wow. Are you mad? Okay.
Not really.
Um, Typically for product design related things, I would want to see the impact of the work. So I don't see it here in your one product design looking case study. But it does say that you're good in visuals. So here's a tip for the audience. Being good at visuals is great, but that's the first impression layer. My mental model, so just be aware of my own bias, is that okay, what does the work look like? Is it good? If yes, okay, I want to know more. How do you actually think? And then it's the evaluation of the thinking that matters. And I just don't see a lot of that. So let's go with Jessa. Hi, Jessa. Okay, so she has case studies. It's a Canva link. I don't really mind that. So she has okay, table of contents. Okay, it's a hire. She's applying for the UX designer role. Um, she wants to develop her skills and gain more experience. This says that she's kind of a junior designer in my book. She's proficient in mobile and web design via Figma. Here are three case studies. Part of her boot camp. So that's a junior position she's applying for. Okay, so the final pitch. It's a redesign. Um, okay. What do you guys think, Rafa, Pat?
Right now, I just scanned the keyword code that is
Hmm.
here. It actually linked to a Figma prototype, but like with this, I kind of wanna. It's like a summary already of like the work, but I wanna see the
Okay.
work in the
Okay.
portfolio. I guess for me, like what's more important is the work rather than the tiny details, like when did this project happen. Like the role is good because like I know what your role in the making of this project is, and yeah.
I think there's a narrative here. So okay, let's move
Okay,
forward.
I see.
So like if you I mean we evaluated her even though we didn't complete the thing. That's that's something too, right? Like you only have a short time to impress someone. So it's a business reality show. Okay. There's some sticky notes. Uh there's oh, you created it in 2 weeks. Okay. So I wouldn't read this honestly. Like what I would honestly really do is just do this. Okay. So like, where's the like what's happening? Okay. First, to me, it's just not enough to put a screenshot of your Figram. Like, I want to see insights. Like, what did you learn? What's the synthesis? And then what did you act on based on those new insights? That's what matters. Um, but maybe if I had more time, I would really read through it. But um, you can maybe qualify for an internship for sure. Pat, Rafa, what do you think?
Plus one for me on like showing screenshots of like the Miro board, Fig Jam. For me, it doesn't add value as someone who would potentially hire or work with you. I would care more about the output. So maybe yes, give a little bit of context about the problem you're trying to solve, but I care more about your solution and how you know the impact that you've made, if any. But yes.
Okay. Anas says he built his site. It's a great job. Like I think this is really well made. So um, that speaks to your skill as a front end developer. So kudos to you. So if you're good at that, maybe you should write it here because you can position yourself that way. Um, so you can build no code websites. I guess this is an example. I just want to emphasize that I would port over all of your work from uh, these case studies into your website itself, and then you can have a really strong portfolio that way. All right, let's move on. So, okay, to Nabil. Hi, Nabil. I can see him on Twitter sometimes. So he's this is the signal that we were talking about earlier. Open to full time and freelance opportunities. Um, what do you think, Rafa and Pat?
Um, just by like how like the open to full time line and how different the hierarchy between the main H1 and that thing. Like I didn't actually read what's on top. So maybe having
Okay,
more like hierarchy there, I'd be able to know na oh he's
all right,
actually open to full time work. And it's easily like skimmable, that part.
okay. So yes, testimonials. That's great.
Oh, that's
I
great.
would actually put this. I don't know, maybe here in a shorter way. But that's good. So let's take a look at Nabilo's work. Uh, all right, CK study. So here, Nabil, I would make this whole thing clickable. So you can hide this just to save some space. All right, Atom Bay. Okay. Uh, it's not working. I think there's an issue with like domains these days. I just don't know why. Okay, your site has crashed. I'm not sure why. Maybe a lot of people are accessing it. Okay. Um, do you have an alternative link, Nabil? I see you're on the audience chat. Maybe you... it's okay. We can come back to. Oh yeah, you switched hosting. All right, that's fine. That's funny because I also switched domains and this has been an issue. So that's why I've shown a Webflow URL here. That's fine. We can just come back. Okay, for the Chapo, I don't know. I'm sorry if I butchered your name. So she's from South Africa. Okay. First impressions, Rafa, Pat.
So I think she mentioned that she was a UX designer in her bio, but don't really see. Oh, okay. So there's one snippet of frick that shows that, but I think mostly her work that she displayed here for visual design or graphic design.
There's a case study here, so let's
Okay.
take a look. So if you want to advertise yourself as a like UI designer, put the case studies first.
Yeah.
Okay. Like I wouldn't reread it. Uh, I don't know if this is a case study for herself or it's a case study for this client.
And she designed the brochure. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah. I don't
Yeah,
know. I
maybe
don't
it's an
know.
actual
So
case study for the
okay.
client.
um. All right. I think same with our previous folks here. Um, the Chapo, you just have to show more UI work if that's how you're marketing yourself. Okay. So Amira. All right. Amira's our number one member of the community. So thanks for sharing your portfolio. So Amira, she's a web designer, Webflow developer. She worked at the YC company. That's a big deal. Um, I think we need to reload. Okay, because there's some animations going on. Okay.
Cool.
So I don't know what this means, but I'm kind of biased because I read it earlier. So it means intention and snippets of the things that matter to her. Okay, she has Avion, Backscoop, Next Pay, another one from Next Pay. So any first impressions, Rafa, Pat?
I think Amira's website is very fun. I'd actually scroll through. I think I went through it before and actually scroll through everything. I like how she showed her work off the bat. I would prefer it to just be like a tiny bit bigger, just for me to see more of the like the thumbnails. I don't know if you have like a gigantic screen, Alexis, but there's like white space on the sides of the wig. So I would prefer if she made use of that space to fit more. Also notice that some of the colors you used in your thumbnails for the case studies clash a bit with your purple background. So maybe that's one thing for consideration as well. But I like how you also highlighted like the skills or um, expertise, domain of expertise for each case study. So, for instance, if it's a project that you use the webflow for, um, yeah. So,
Okay, so let's go back to our goals, right? So we want to check if Amira is a good product designer. Like I can see that she's a good developer. Like I use the site and she has a little bit of web design knowledge, but where's the product design work here? So like this next page site, it's a case study. Okay, let's take a look. And note here, her calls to action are very different for each one. So this one's view website. These two are view case studies. So okay, that's you send the Notion page. All right. So okay, honestly, I'm a growth person and I deal with like marketing sites. Uh, it's nice to have case studies. So, but this is not a product design case study in my opinion. Um, but let's take a look at how she constructed the case study, right? So there's an overview, okay, and then there's some context, some wireframes. There's some inspiration going on. I would have liked the final design to be the first thing, but looks like this is a okay. It's pricing page. Any thoughts, Rafa, Pat? No thoughts.
personally, I do find it a bit long. Uh, but I do like how there's like a lot of screenshots per section, so that gives me like visual cues of like what's going on throughout the process.
Okay. I mean, this is all well and good for me. What I would really do is just view the website. So the website link should be here somewhere. So it's here, nextpay.world. But then, Amira, look, like this is what you designed. They changed it. So like, uh, this doesn't work anymore. Like whatever your link here is. So because they changed the design, right? So that might be a negative point to you. Just so you know, like that's how I would think about it as a hiring manager, because like you're advertising that you did this, but that's not what's here anymore. Okay, so of course there's always like products are always changing, landing pages are always changing. Um, Maybe I would like to see what the impact was. So as a growth person, I would take a look at the views or whatever the goal of NextPay is. Like it's a B2B company, right? Oh, sorry, it's like it's almost everything. It's for freelancers to um like I would want number of views, maybe leads that were captured, number of signups, or like some evidence of A/B testing on buttons, those kinds of things. Um, this is a bit long. What I would use like zoom in. Okay. So it might be just the influence of this actual call, but like if I were really focusing on it, I would probably read through it. But yeah, thank you, Amira, for sending it. On other advice, Rafa, Pat.
For me, like among the works that was shown here, I like the fourth one because it's specific to us, like a specific feature, like this quick transfer, rather than like the whole website. Because usually when we show like, yes, I worked on a landing page, but when we go to the whole website, like, were you the only one who worked on the whole thing, or like what specific parts did you work on? But like with the fourth case study here, I know that she worked on this specific system, and what were her goals? Her goals were to optimize this certain process, and we get to see how she thinks product wise, and what solutions were she able to come up with. So that's great for me.
All right. Thank you, Rafa. This was what I was looking for earlier. Um, honestly, this should be your thumbnail. Um, and just like transfer all of this on your site. Like it's a disjointed experience for designers, hiring managers, and founders when like they're on your site, but then it's like a sad moment when it leads you to somewhere else. Unless, you know, you really want them to digest the thing. So like this one, the Avion School one, that's a good example. Like I'm fine with seeing the actual work here. But then if it's like, okay, I have a case study and then it's a Notion page, like that's kind of annoying, honestly. But you have a great site, you're a great developer, you have testimonials, it's a great work. Okay, let's move on to Himanshu. He was quite anxious in the chat earlier. So let's see. I think this is cool. Great use of type. And you're drawing my eye to certain things, right? So this one first in here. Uh, and then you say you're a Google certified UX UI designer. Okay. Okay, I think there are some animations here. Let's just refresh just to see. Okay. Recent work. Maybe you can put this at the top, honestly,
I agree.
before saying who you are.
Because
Because like that's yeah. Go ahead,
like
Rafa.
for me, I need to scroll 3 full pages worth before I can actually see your work. But your work here is visually appealing. So if it was in front, then you already captivated me. Right there. Um, yeah, so it's all about like what I said a while ago, like resources scarce. So present your work up front, and then I think you're good because like you actually used like a variety of you these mock-ups are great because one project here uses a desktop, the other one is a tablet, and the other one is a mobile. So you're showing how versatile you are as a designer. You can design for applications, you can design for websites, which is great. Like by just seeing these thumbnails, the use of thumbnails, yeah.
Okay, I think Rafa's cutting off a bit.
Am I?
Um, what I like here on the thumbnail design is that there's some sort of art direction going on. That means you're quite intentional and you have a high bar for quality. That's great. So I am interested to click. Okay. So it's a framer site. My initial sense is that okay, yes, it's a template, but that's fine. So this is but what matters is the content. So let's take a look. There's an overview. It's kind of long, but I would just scroll down. Um, okay, so there's this design thinking inspired phases. All right, let's see. There's an empathy map. So how I would think, being who I am now, is that you don't really need to present it, present this honestly, like because design really isn't linear. I would be more interested in how you really solve the problem. But I think you have a superb command of like visual design. Uh, but this is just too long. You should start here. What problem are you solving? But then it's just really too long, honestly. You have a journey map. That's great. You have hypothesis statements, value proposition. How might we? So what I'm thinking now is okay. You have a command of user experience enough that you can do these things, and I can see you also have competitive analysis. Uh, you can do user flows, IA. You're doing really well in using the space of the entire site. That's great. And your wireframes look like they're real high fidelity designs. So you're actually pretty good at visual design. And yeah, the final output is great. Like I would say I would hire you, Himanshu, like for like freelance projects or even for Swarm, right? If you have an opening. What are your thoughts, Pat?
Yeah, so I guess right off the bat, I like how you can see the body of work, or I can actually read and see the mock-ups just because of the use of space. I really feel like you maximized the space you were given with. Visual design is on point. And actually, in your homepage, I liked how you put in some testimonials there, and even put in some snippets of where the testimonials came from, company logos of where they worked with. So I really appreciated that. And also all of the case studies. Seems like you have a really good grasp of, product design and design in general. So yeah, I do really like this Himanshu.
So one thing to improve for you, Himanshu, is that I can see that you go by the book, right? Like you literally do all of the design thinking steps, but that might not be the case for all kinds of projects, right? Uh, just because you did the steps doesn't mean that it's a great final design. Um, but if I was gonna hire you fractionally or for a freelance basis, like this is great for me already. But if you want to progress as a product designer, right? Like okay, like why did you design it this way? It's like thinking, how can I show them my thinking versus showing I did the checklist. Like check empathy map, check competitor analysis, and what people talk about when it comes to like the impact, those kinds of things. What maybe the testimonial is. That's what matters. Um, so honestly, you can put that here at the top. I know that you have it at the bottom here, but like you should pair these ones with your actual case studies here and whatever the impact was of your design. But I think it's here, but it's not readable. We've already seen decrease in abandonment rate on mobile device by 35%. You should like put that in front. Like don't be afraid to market yourself, and just be proud of the impact that you created. That's it. I think you can easily land a job, honestly. Okay, thank you, Himanshu. So let's go with LJ. So LJ is a Manila-based web designer. It's a resume style. Okay. Um. All right. M360. What do you think, Pat?
I like it. It's very clean. Seems like it's a deck knob, but I can see that the navigation at the top makes it seem like
You
he.
can't click it if
Yeah,
you're a Mongol.
yeah. Okay, so that's one thing. If you're sending out decks or PDF versions of your portfolio, it's important to make sure that the links are clickable. But I like the navigation he used at the top. If only it was, clickable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, LJ, you're a great visual designer, right? A next step would be just porting everything to like an actual site. This is not enough for a product design portfolio, I would say. But then if you find a mentor who's willing to train you, right? Because you have existing visual design skills and you're from a design school and you actually really have great visual design skills, that's great. You have a list of uh projects you've worked on so far, and I know I can click them and they're actually really good. I'm interested to know what your role was, right? So, okay, A Labs, what did you do here? Is this all you? Did you code it? Like, what was your role there? How about Cloud Eats? That's one of the big startups here. Like, it's really good, right? The visual design, the website, the colors, everything. But like, I don't know what you worked on here. That's the issue. Um, all right. We're almost at the end, and then we can have an open discussion. So we reviewed the audience. We want to show you portfolios from people who are the highest earners at Swarm. uh, okay, so Nabil. Before that, Nabil sent his link. Let's give him a chance. So okay, so let's take a look at Atom Pay. Nabil did a really great job just incorporating the case study in his site. He's the first one to do it among everyone. Um, introduction. Okay. Goes. All right. So Nabil showed his results. So roles and responsibility research. And I think he's intentional in what paragraphs he's listing. Let's take a look. So it's kind of short, the BL. And I would just use these images and make them full width so that I don't have to click on them, right? And you show that your design works. Like, how can I argue with that? Um, what do you think, Pat?
Yeah, I think it's great. It's very clean. I like how you made an overview of your role, who you worked with, who your client was, and basically you showed screenshots for each one. Again, I don't know if I'll look at or if I'll zoom in every pic. So the bigger the image, the better, which I think you've done for some here. I like how you made a summary of your process, so it didn't end up being too long. Yeah, overall, this is great.
Okay, I think for your progression, Nabil, you can just show it to more people and just ask what they think, right? Um, in my personal opinion, you could do a better job with the visual design because when I saw this screen, it was kind of hard to, like interact with it because of the yellow is everywhere. What else? Let's take a look at your blog. You have two articles. That's free game for people like for hiring managers. Like I would really look at it. So okay, then you can improve on your headlines. What we learned. Okay, I'm just skimming, but it's good that you're writing stuff just like some of the other folks in the audience too.
And like for
Dressing
case studies
images.
like this,
Okay, this tells me that you really know how to make a website fast. That's great. Yeah. I think you're very smart, Nabil, and you can just continue to show more work. So let's move on to the highest earners. So second place, I am not even sure if it's like this person's second place or first place, but let's just take a look at the two of them. So this is Angela Chua. We interviewed her on Fractional. So she lists down her collective, but it's really just her and sometimes a few other people. She does strategy, product design, and then wow, this parallax effect, it's amazing. You can see the work. There's some creative direction going on, and there's like literally a grid here. If you can see it, is aligned. um, and this says it all, honestly. This part. What do you think, Pat? Like, are you gonna
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna
argue?
see this new Samsung, and I'm just gonna,
wow.
hands
Like,
down,
okay,
yeah.
here's my money. Like, go Angela. She just shipped a long time coming application with I think Note Shelf. I don't remember. Yeah, this one Note Shelf. So let's try clicking on it. So nice, super short. Originally an independent project, Note Shelf has grown to 6 million paid users and counting. Okay, there were insights. Okay, she didn't write the goals part, but I don't really care. Like she worked at Disney for Disney, because like okay, this is like lorem ipsum stuff. Um, so it tells like a story, right? I think this is the difference between doing the checklist style portfolio, um, just okay, empathy map, blah blah blah, versus the storytelling what actually happened, right? And showing the designs in between. That's great. And look, results. Apple featured, became number one overall app in the US, right above Angry Birds. Press reviews. That's amazing, right? Um, let's go back to the homepage and I'll show you the rest. So Bulgaria hotels, allergy smart. So I'm scrolling down and it's going horizontally, and the colors are just on point. Interactions are on point. And look, Innovation Awards, App Store Best of 2015, awards nominee, Editor's Choice, App Store number one, Best of Month, number three in Google Play Store. Like honestly, for things like this, you just it's automatic. Like you just hire her and wonder if you can afford her or not. She has a Webflow, Team Webflow. Okay. What do you think, Pat? What are your thoughts?
I mean, hands down, everything. I think it just really ticks all the boxes. I like her use of interaction design. She's an agency owner, so it makes sense to showcase all of her services first and then work after. I like how she really flexed all of her, past work by essentially having a collection of brands and logos to show on site. And even on her case studies, I like her use of showcasing social proof. So if you notice, there she actually added reviews and awards won for some of the case studies she wrote down. So that was great.
So speaking from a growth perspective, and okay, I think Pat, you need to mute. Okay,
Okay.
so I can hear myself. So speaking from a growth perspective, uh, when you click the blog, it's just one article, but I can tell that her audience is for the client because she's trying to convince the client that they should go with Webflow, right? She's addressing client objections right away even before they meet, right? That's great. And like I would assume the end's like just a contact button. So you know, like I think that's superb. Just shows that she's very strategic as well. Rafa, what do you think? Welcome back.
I didn't know I was gone because, like, in my screen, I was here. I was talking, but
Okay.
none of you were responding. But that's a fine. What did I think about this? Like, it's absolutely amazing the way how she uses all of these, like, basically skills on top of skills. Like, basically with just the portfolio alone, you're able to determine like what the person can already do and what your products, if I'm the potential client, for example, what my products could, or like what my project could actually turn into if I hired this person to do the design work for me. So that's great. Go Angela.
Okay. Go, Angela. Thank you, Angela. She's one of our VIBs, very important Bs. This one's Leroy. That's not the first page. Let's just reload. So Leroy is a product designer. He was a lead product designer. Let's take a look. So, in my opinion, the text is too small. um, but look at the what I would do is zoom in, honestly. So I would just do this command plus. So bring people along the way. He designed spaces for Filipino streamers at Kumu, provided unbanked Filipino access to financial services, ING, and RIP. That's kind of like something funny. Philippine Airlines, Globe, Saudi Arabia's Council of Ministers, Singapore's Ministry of Health, and help Filipinos find jobs at Calibre. Like that just sums up that, yeah, there's nothing to contest.
Yeah, and it's
Uh,
interesting because there's no photos here. It kind of just forces me to read everything. So yeah, and actually, I think the small text maybe was a stylistic choice, but yeah, I have to squint a bit.
yeah, I mean that's just an issue, but if it works, it works. So let's take a look at the work. Fixing broken windows, neglecting small usability issues in a digital product can harm the user experience and in the overall. Okay, it looks like Leroy is a philosopher. There's a theory here, um, and it reads like I don't know, a blog post, right? And then he shows the work, some small tidbits before and after, some contrast changes, uh, notifications. Okay. There's a lot of before and afters, and there's a reason why, and I think that's great. So there's a lot of consistency changes. Very basic, but it's quite powerful if you're working in a product, honestly, because that can lead to better engagement and retention.
Yeah, and I like
And
how
I
he
know,
actually put the design side by side, so you really get to see how he improved the product.
yeah, very good. Key learnings. I mean, it's quite short, but um, I mean, is it short? This is the 100% version, just so you know. uh, it might be hard to read. So that's just my feedback for you, Leroy. But, Leroy has earned a lot of money from Swarm. Kumu's app navigation, problem, solution, impact, and role. So he starts with a problem, says the solution, and the impact, increase usage. There's a lot of context. There's some numbers. Um, okay, let's take a look. So there's a high percentage. So he starts with the actual context and numbers to give us an understanding of what's happening, like what's the story. And there's a Filipino testimonial. Sorry, it's not a testimonial. It's a user story call out. So you need to learn a lot as a new user. So it's not a great onboarding experience, I guess. All right. So there's a lot of data here. Like you can tell he's smart. He works with a data team. He knows what he's doing. He's being intentional with the work. There's even like screenshots with Crystal. Crystal's, I think she led. I forgot if she's co-founder of Gojek or, but I know she was part of Gojek. Gojek's like a decacorn, and she worked as a fractional chief product officer at Kumu. So just sharing the conversations with stakeholders, that's great. Um, Crystal made the judgment call. So there's a story here, right? And he's testing assumptions. All right. You had this, right, Pat, on your case study, and that was like 3 years ago. But you had this section on yours. That's great. Because you don't assume that whatever your solution will work. Right. Yeah, Chief Product Officer at Gojek. Okay. Usability test summary. So there's actual completion rates. I mean, you can't argue with that. uh, so I think Leroy is someone who's like a lead product designer level person. Like I would hire him for that role, maybe a principal staff for like even a head of design level. Like to determine that, I would also check if what the other tabs contain. So there's a now. It's raining as I write this on a Monday. The blues hit hard. I think about the year 2021 a lot. Last year's July and August was such a okay. I won't read that, but um, it's amazing. I think there's some, you know, content strategy, like art direction, uh, in addition to intentionality with how you use the visual design, and you show the process, like actual conversations. And let's take a look at this one, the Kumu product design team's process. So this is a leadership portfolio. Like it's not just it's not a junior or mid-level portfolio. It's a senior to manager level or leadership portfolio. So I can see that this is how he thinks about rituals, how he works with his team, retros, offsites. I mean, yeah. Uh, like for a founder, this is extremely interesting if they're hiring for a full-time position, right? But it can also happen that someone can be hired for a fractional like head of design position, and that fractional person can be in charge of hiring people and setting up initial processes, and that can actually work. So kudos to Leroy, and he has other side projects here on the shoulders of giants. Okay, so this is like a resource that he's built that he curated for other people. Uncommon library. Yeah, what do you think, Pat and Rafa?
Yeah, I think you said everything, Alexis.
Yeah.
But I do love his portfolio.
The portfolio itself speaks.
It speaks for
Yeah.
itself.
It speaks for itself.
Leroy originally was an engineer. Yeah, so Dexter worked with Leroy at Caliber. Caliber is the first YC company in the Philippines. YC is one of the biggest, if not, it's the biggest and best startup accelerator in the world. They were. That's the reason why Airbnb exists. All right, so let's move on to our dialogue. If you want to drop off, that's fine. We've recorded the session and we're posting a lot of snippets online too. But let's do the dialogue. All right. I think Gabby had a question earlier. So, all right, let's look for it. Gabby. So, sorry, it's taking time. A question for later. Curious about presenting Sorry, when you're typing, it's a UX issue on this platform. It just goes down. I can't see Gabby's question. Okay, so guys, favor stop typing for now. Okay, question for later. Curious about okay, the impact. Like, if what if you haven't measured it, right? Uh, and you're presenting the case study to the person. What do you think, Pat, Rafa? Like, you don't have access to impact data yet. Like, what do you do?
I'd probably look for testimonials from either people I've worked with, internal feedback, and maybe if I've done any user interviews before and after, even immediately after we launched like the iteration or the product. I think that can substitute the impact portion.
I guess if impact hasn't been measured yet, probably they can like show their goals, like with the solution they created. What are your OKRs? What are you're trying to achieve? And yeah, I think that's enough because like once it was already it's out there and there's already impact, then you can actually compare your the goals that you have set to the actual metrics that the product or like the thing received.
Okay. For me as a hire manager, I mean, it's just really hard. I coming from an empathy POV. If the person you're applying to has some empathy, if you were upfront and honest with saying that you're still getting that data or it's under NDA, I would really understand. I would find other criteria to evaluate you for the quality of your thinking, whatever your walkthrough was, or what you do during the interview with the hiring manager. And that would give me an insight as to, like, how good you are as a designer. I have a list of questions here from earlier before I get to Louis and Hannah's questions. So Louis asked earlier, does that mean if Pat updates her portfolio, she's looking for work? What do you think, Pat?
For
If you
me,
update your portfolio, does that mean you're looking
not
for work?
necessarily. I think I'd go ahead and revise my portfolio after this. Honestly, from all of
Will
the
you though?
feedback we've gotten.
Joke.
Yeah,
So don't update your portfolio. I can see.
yeah. But yeah, not necessarily. Like, it depends. I mean, what you want to publish your portfolio for. If it's solely for the intent of getting hired, some people want to publish their portfolio just to showcase their work incrementally, to show their growth as a designer, and I think it's different for everyone.
I agree with Pat. Like not necessarily, but that is usually the case. Sometimes when you have milestone updates or you created something new, that's when you update your portfolio. I mean, ideally, but sometimes when we look for work, that is sometimes the time that we update our portfolios. But we kind of want to break like this cycle of like just updating our portfolios because we need it when we're looking for work. It's good to have like this habit of when you created something, even it's not a big project, it might be something small, but it has a little bit of product thinking into it, a little bit of like showcasing your design skills, visuals. Yeah, create that habit to update your portfolio always, because like when your portfolio is always there and you don't know when it is being viewed by someone else, and if your latest work there is like from 5 years ago, then maybe you're not doing probably not actively looking for work anymore. That is also like an indirect signal or like a trigger for these people looking at your portfolios.
All right. I want to answer Louis and Brendan's question first so that we have a balanced set of answers for, like, founders too. So, as a non designer who's looking to hire freelancer designers for the project, how do you check the completeness of their output? So, what would be good here is to find a designer friend to help vet for you, in my opinion. And then something like this, right? Like you're attending one of our portfolio reviews. Now you have access to new mental models, right? Um, in checking portfolios. I think it depends on your goal. Louis, like I met you, I think last night. If you're building your um, startup, for example, as a side project, I would gauge a designer on a call too, because like in a portfolio, it's just what I said in the beginning is that it's just a yes or no. Like, do I want to talk to this person, right? So when you do talk to them, what's the best signal to understand if they're the right fit is the quality of their questions. So, what kind of questions are they asking you? But if you ask them, okay, do you have questions for me, and they don't have anything, that's a red flag, honestly. They need to be asking about context, what's been done before, what's the process like, what's what's the struggle at the current moment, and how can they strategically help you? Those kinds of things. Um, Brendan, when hiring a fractional head of product or product designer, what is the often expectation on their end for amount of time or effort in a startup? Things ebb and flow. Sometimes there are lots of product/design decision and deliverables in a short period of time, while other times the team is knocking out the work. So I think for fractional head of design, they just I think the expected thing to do really depends on your strategic priorities. If it's something like in order to achieve uh, whatever you're building, you need to, let's say, improve your brand capability, and then your product design process capability in order to move faster. Uh, some requirements there would be like, okay, I need to hire people who fit, right? Or product designers who have domain expertise in whatever you're building as a founder, right? That's how I would approach it. And then screen for candidates that way. Um, I would honestly go with like a retainer style um, setup so that it's flexible to the ebb and flow, and you can agree on terms with the designer themselves. Um, yeah, and they should be able to help you with strategic decision making and building out those capabilities so that you can, execute on whatever you're doing. Okay, so Hannah, 4 to 5, how many case studies? I've seen on Twitter, it's like 2 to 3, but it's super solid. That's enough. What do you think, Pat or Rafa? Like, just say a number.
Like 3 is a good number.
Rafa.
I think you're muted, Ra.
Oh, yeah. 3 to 4. 3 to 4 is great. As long as they're great. Like, if you're amazing, one, probably. But yeah, 2 to 3, three
Okay.
to four. I know.
I mean, I'd say it depends on the designer's goals. So if you want to show range, then 3 to 4. If you want to show you're super amazing, superior at product design, 1 to 2, but super solid case study, that's enough.
But I mean,
Yeah.
variety is also good because, like, for if you have three, one project can be showcasing an e-commerce. How do you create solutions there? And then another solution is probably an entertainment app or something. So it shows different like sides or like tricks of your sleeves kind of thing.
Okay. Louis asked, should designers prepare a different portfolio if the hiring manager is not a designer? Ooh. Okay. The session emphasized how differently designers see a portfolio than I do. Okay. So we have different personas, right? Different points of views. When we're looking at portfolio, you can be a founder, a hiring manager, you can be a junior. Typically in the design ecosystem, it's like an echo chamber and people obsessing over like colors and spacing. Uh, but I think Louis, the only like thing that is important is the designers know who they're talking to, like who their target customer is with the portfolio artifact. So if you feel like it's obvious that they just want other designers to see it, then that's a bad. I guess that's a red flag, right? Um, I think uh, designers don't necessarily need to prepare a different portfolio um, if the hiring manager is not a designer. Um, but they could address your questions in a space where they can have a dialogue with you. I think that's what matters. Because if, for example, if a designer were to dumb down, let's say, like, the content of their case studies just to accommodate that for a person who is not a designer, that might be a boon to like the hiring manager who actually does understand what's happening, right? So the incentives are misaligned in that way. What do you think, Pat or Rafa? Have you shown your portfolios to non-designers before?
Hmm. Maybe for hiring purposes, so maybe HR at the very least. But I still do think that a good designer should be able to like make their point across and impress someone regardless of who they are. So for instance, if you're writing a case study, I mean of course it doesn't have to be dumbed down. But I think that the good case study should be um like appropriately understandable regardless or not if our designer is reading it. I guess it really just depends on your intention, like what your portfolio is for. Is it to get hired full time? Is it to get a fractional or freelance opportunity? And I guess your role as well. So positioning matters. If you're trying to get a job as solely like a product designer, then I would cater or showcase more product design work than graphic dev work. So yeah.
I agree on Pat's point there. But and I really think like it's just like how people see your portfolio or your kind of work in different angles, but every angle is as important. Like it depends on like who you're targeting with, like because like for example in my portfolio I was able to get referred by even non-technical people, like traditional artists who want their portfolios or even like their shop websites to be created. And for them, what was good about my portfolio is I was able to show them great visuals, and they had this vision that, oh, maybe I am the right designer to be the one to create their own shop because like this visuals um, is to their liking, for example. um, yeah, so if they are designers, if they are non-designers, make sure that everything could be understood, everything is clear, it's simple, it's sweet, and then you're actually good to go.
All right. What else? Like, in my opinion, the portfolio as an artifact to decide whether it's a go or not, it should cater to different audiences. The reason why visual design matters is that's the yes or no impression. Like that's the, like, does it look good? Even if you're not a designer, they can kind of tell if it looks good, right? Or not. Um, and if it looks good, okay, what's the thinking behind it? What problems being solved? Um, how did they approach the problem? And what were the results? I think that's pretty standard. But we've seen from the top earners that uh, you can do it in a different way. So someone like Angela or Leroy uses storytelling to their advantage, right? And if you're a designer, you can make use of different frameworks like the hero's journey, um, like the triple act style of storytelling, because storytelling is a natural way to just convey, information and emotion to whoever, right? That's why TED Talks are like anyone can consume them, right? Um, if they can do the same, but still show that they're exceptional at the product thinking, the designs, then yeah, you're golden. And we've run a little over time. We hope you had a great time. Jake is here to, you know, say goodbye. All right, take it away, Jake.